As you've read in the thumbnail and the title, don't worry. Later in this video, we'll share the full story with you in complete detail. Last Thursday, after 43 years of marriage, I thought I had seen it all. But when Margaret said at the kitchen table, "Robert, I think it's best if you don't come to the cottage this Christmas," something inside me cracked. "What do you mean don't come?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "The kids, we all think it might be easier if you stay home this year. You've been difficult lately." Difficult. That word hit harder than I expected. At Thanksgiving, I'd argued with Trevor about his business. At Emma's birthday, I'd commented on her boyfriend's tattoos. The kids were tired of walking on eggshells. Trevor, 41, divorced, working in marketing. Emma, 38, a social worker. Good kids. I had thought we raised them well. "I was just giving my opinion," I said, trying to explain. Trevor asked about his idea. Margaret sighed, that deep, disappointed sigh I'd been hearing more often lately. "That's exactly what I mean, Robert. Everything has to be your way, your judgment." I looked at the woman I'd loved since 1979. 3 kids, a house, careers. I had worked as a civil engineer for 35 years, bridges, infrastructure. People only noticed when things went wrong. I was proud of my work. "So that's it?" I asked. 43 years, and I'm uninvited from Christmas? "It's just this year," she said. "Give everyone some space." That night, lying awake, I thought about all the past Christmases at the cottage. Snow, fireplaces, kids opening presents, and now I was being left out. The next morning, she was gone to her book club. A note on the counter read, "Didn't want to wake you. There's coffee." I spent the day in my basement workshop, the only place that still felt like mine. For 8 months, I had been secretly working on something real, something the family didn't know about. It started with a conversation with David Chan. "The biggest problem in construction is coordination," he'd said. "Miscommunication between architects, engineers, contractors, and suppliers causes most delays and cost overruns." I remembered my old coordination system from the 90s. Analog, forgotten, but the principles still worked. Now I wanted to modernize it. I started building. I taught myself Python, studied machine learning, and devoured everything I could on modern construction technology. Margaret thought I was wasting my time. The kids joked about Grandpa learning to code. But I was building something real, a platform to solve exactly the problem David had described. By November, I had a working prototype. Not perfect, but it worked. Tested on old project data, the results were amazing. I showed it to David over coffee. He stared at the screen, speechless. "Robert, do you understand what this is?" he finally said. "A coordination platform. This is a billion-dollar idea." 8 months, I said. "Give or take." David laughed, still shocked. "By yourself? Really? The principles were solid. I just needed to translate them into modern technology." He connected me with Apex Ventures, a Toronto firm specializing in construction tech. Their interest was immediate, intense. They wanted to buy the platform outright. The offer was dizzying. 7 figures for the initial buyout, more to come if the platform performed well. I didn't tell Margaret. I didn't tell the kids. What could I say? "Hey, remember how you think I'm difficult? I just built something that might change an entire industry." No one would have believed me. Christmas came. Margaret left for the cottage on the 23rd, taking luggage for both of us. "Just in case you change your mind," she said. But I wouldn't. I wasn't going uninvited. Trevor called on Christmas Eve. "Hey Dad, Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, son. You doing okay? Mom said you decided not to come." "Decided?" I said. That was one way to put it. The house was quiet. I poured a scotch and surveyed the decorations. Traditional Canadian Christmas, but empty without the family. And for the first time in decades, I felt calm, peaceful. No sais. No judging eyes. No walking on eggshells. Just me, my thoughts, and the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I spent the day in the basement, refining the technical details of the platform. The deal would close tomorrow. Everything had to be perfect. At exactly 12 minutes past midnight, transitioning from Christmas to Boxing Day, my phone rang. Trevor shaking. Dad, your name is on the news. The CBC app. It says you sold your platform for $8.5 million. I sat down. I knew the announcement was coming, but I hadn't realized it would hit immediately, midnight Boxing Day. Is this real? Trevor asked. It's real, I said. And there's more if targets are met. Could be up to 20 million over 5 years. Silence. Then I knew everything was about to change. The next morning, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts, calls, emails, mostly from family. Margaret came home alone that afternoon. She didn't knock, just stood in the doorway. Robert, why didn't you tell me? She asked. Tell you what? I said. The platform, the deal, everything. She said, her voice trembling. I looked at her. Really looked. She wore the sweater I had bought her last Christmas, the one she never wore. Would you have been interested? I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That's not fair, she said. Isn't it? When was the last time anyone in this family asked what I was working on? When did anyone care about my opinions unless it was to tell me I was wrong? She sat down, tears quietly running down her face. The kids feel terrible, she said. I'm sure they do, I said. Trevor and Emma didn't take me seriously when I started learning to code. They thought it was a joke. And you told your book club I was having a late-life crisis. She flinched. Someone told me, she whispered. I said, I am old, yes. Stubborn, yes. But not obsolete. Not then, not ever. She nodded quietly. You're not obsolete. Later that evening, Trevor and Emma arrived together. They looked uncomfortable, like teenagers caught doing something wrong. Dad. Trevor started. We owe you an apology. We've been treating you like you didn't matter, like your ideas were outdated. And we were wrong. Completely wrong. Emma added. What you built, Dad, it's incredible. I've been reading online. They say it could change construction coordination forever. I said, I care about being respected, not because of money, but because I'm your father, and I might actually know something worth listening to. They nodded, understanding finally sinking in. Trevor looked at me, tears in his eyes. Dad, last Christmas, when Mom told you not to come, I thought it would be easier without you. But it was the worst Christmas of my life. It wasn't just that you weren't there. It was that we made you not be there. And I kept thinking of all the Christmases we ignored your advice, rolled our eyes at your opinions, treated you like an obligation. I'm sorry. I pulled him into a hug. I forgive you. And I'm proud for recognizing it, for being willing to do better. That night I felt seen. Not invisible. Not ignored. For the first time in years, I felt truly heard. If you like, I can combine all your Robert/Margaret chapters into a smooth, continuous story, removing skipped numbers and repetitive parts, so it reads as one cohesive narrative without gaps. It would feel polished and ready for publishing. The weeks that followed felt different, lighter. Not perfect, but honest. Trevor began calling me more often. Not for advice he planned to dismiss, but advice he genuinely wanted. He asked real questions about the platform, about strategy, about mistakes I had made in the past. And for the first time, he waited for my answers. Emma surprised me the most. One evening she said, Dad, can I help? Not with the technical side, but with the people side. She talked about how construction projects affect families, neighborhoods, and vulnerable communities, noise, displacement, stress, the things executives rarely consider. I listened. And this time, I was the one learning from my child. We formed a small advisory board focused on social impact, with Emma as its chair. Her perspective reshaped the platform. It wasn't just efficient anymore, it was humane. Margaret began changing too. She enrolled in basic computer classes at the community center. I just want to understand what you've been doing in that basement, she said quietly. She never became a programmer, but she learned enough to ask thoughtful questions, real, interested questions. One night she admitted, I didn't realize how much I stopped seeing you. It hurt, but it also healed. By summer, the platform expanded into new markets. Apex brought Trevor in as a consultant, and by July he was leading the marketing division for residential expansion. He earned it, not because he was my son, but because he worked hard. By Christmas, 1 year after I'd spent the holiday alone, everything had shifted. We returned to the cottage together, everyone. Emma brought her boyfriend, tattoos and all, a quiet paramedic with a steady presence. One of the most grounded people I'd ever met. Trevor brought his new girlfriend too, an architect eager to discuss practical applications of the platform. I smiled at that. On Christmas Eve after dinner, Trevor asked me to step outside. We stood on the deck, the lake frozen and glowing under the moonlight. "Dad," he said, "last Christmas, when Mom told you not to come, I was relieved. I thought it would be easier without you." He swallowed hard. It was the worst Christmas of my life. It wasn't just that you weren't there, it was that we made you not be there. And I kept thinking about all the times I ignored you, rolled my eyes, treated you like an obligation instead of someone who loved us. My 42-year-old son cried in front of me. I pulled him into a hug. "I forgive you," I said. "And I'm proud of you for recognizing it, for changing." Later that night, I sat by the fireplace with my laptop, sketching ideas for a new project. Not for approval, not to prove anything, just because I loved building. My phone buzzed, a message from David Chin. "Your platform is exceeding every projection. You've built something special. Merry Christmas." I smiled and set the phone aside. The fire crackled. Snow fell softly outside. Upstairs, my family slept. I wasn't invisible anymore. And that more than money, recognition, or success was the real victory. Later that night, when the house was finally quiet, I closed my laptop and sat by the fire. For the first time in years, I wasn't tired from proving myself. I was tired from living. I thought about everything that had happened. The platform, the meetings, the numbers, the recognition. All of it mattered. But none of it was the reason my chest felt calm. The truth was simple. I no longer felt invisible. For years, I had mistaken silence for peace. I thought stepping back meant maturity. I thought staying quiet meant love. But silence had slowly erased me, from conversations, from decisions, from my own family. And I let it happen. Not because I was weak, but because I believed my time was over. I was wrong. At 67, I learned something most people learn too late. Your value doesn't expire just because others stop asking for your opinion. Growth doesn't belong to the young. Dreams don't have an age limit. And wisdom isn't useless just because it's quiet. The next morning, sunlight poured into the cottage as Margaret handed me a cup of coffee. She smiled, not politely, not out of habit, but warmly. "I'm glad you're still building," she said. So was I. I wasn't building to impress anyone anymore. I was building because it was who I was. Before leaving the cottage, I looked around at my family, laughing, arguing, imperfect, real. Healing hadn't erased the past. It had given us a future. As I stepped outside, the cold air filling my lungs, one thought stayed with me. I didn't need anyone's permission to keep growing. I didn't need validation to keep learning. And I didn't need applause to know my life still mattered. I had spent 67 years becoming someone worth listening to. And finally, I believed it myself.